Plus, Editor-in-Chief. Welcome to the webinar. Actually, if we see post-pandemic, a lot of things changed from life to business. And what the major shift I see, that is the remote working. Remote working, hybrid working model, that is the new norm as of now. In return, it has also impacted on a lot of things. That may be the employee engagement, that may be the employee experience, employee relations, a lot of things it has impact is there. So the agenda for today's discussion is what should be the long-term strategy for improving the employee engagement in, especially in current working models. To discuss on this agenda, we have experience panel. Let me introduce Dr. Jayant Kumar. Dr. Jayant is a head human resources with the ports and logistics business of the Adani Group. Prior to this, he has been as a chief human resource officer with the Tata Power. He has around 25 years of experience in human resources. Previously has been associated with the companies like Hindalco, NTPC, Reliance Communication, Tata Teleservices, and Marico, etc. Another panelist is Vandana Tilwani. Vandana is currently working as a chief human resource officer with the Havas Group. She has almost 3 decades of experience in HR and earlier has been associated with the companies like Revamping, Condé Nast India, Hilltown, Wipro, and WNS Global Services, etc. One more panelist we have, Pragati Parihar. Pragati is working with the Jimio as a senior manager in strategic alliances. Dr. Jan, first I would like to come to you. In last 2-3 years post-pandemic, actually we can see a lot of changes are there, and that impact is also on the employee engagement. So how do you see what the shift has been in last 2-3 years, and what the challenges are in current working models, especially if you talk about the hybrid working models when people are working remotely? And I would like to add on one more question to this, that how do you see the future of it?
Yeah, thanks. So good morning, everyone. And thanks for this opportunity, Rameshji, to address the pertinent question that you raised about what is the shift that has happened. I think one aspect that all of us know and we have beaten it to death is that it has gone more digital. The kind of engagement manager has with the team, the kind of engagement the organization has with employees, the kind of engagement employees have with their peers, all of that has gone more digital, and that mode shift has profound impact on overall how it manifests. Having said that, there are other aspects also. For example, we used to look at engagement in 2 aspects. One, we can't talk of engagement without work, because work is the fundamental reason why any individual engages with an organization, and work is the reason why an organization looks for an individual. That is the core element or central element of this relationship between individual and organization. So engagement was being looked at primarily from the work lens, but there were other aspects like recognition of the work, fun and frolic at the workplace, relationships that individuals enjoy among themselves at the workplace. These were some of the top up which was there, which made it very comprehensive concept. This pandemic or this experience that the world has undergone, that has brought a very strong element of purpose. So at whatever level, individuals have started looking at, why am I doing what I'm doing? And that has changed the dimensions and the dynamics of engagement models within the organization. One is the mechanics of it. The mechanics is related to how do we engage, whether it is physical or digital or hybrid or whatever format. That will change the means and methods. But I'm going beyond that. I'm saying that when people have realized that I need to work around, I need to organize my activities, my work life, all of the holistic aspects linked to the purpose for which I want to pursue it, then there is a definitive shift in the model. And hence the organizations, in my view, will have to think through and bring very different kind of propositions for its set of employees. Some of that has already come in, but many of these are likely to come in the days ahead. That is my view. We have not yet explored it fully. We are still in the exploration phase where we will have to devise very innovative methods of how do we engage where it's not transactional. It's not only a resource view of the individual where there is a contractual relationship between individual and employee, individual and the organization, and then they move ahead as long as they are doing their part and they are getting paid. Then other transactional aspects like fun, frolic, and recognition, occasional recognition, etc. will do. In my view, there are two fundamental things linking the purpose of individual with the purpose of the organization, and the more close this linkage will be, better it will be, and people will feel more engaged with the organization. They will identify themselves with the organization and they will become one with the organization. That is first. Second is, how do I continue to grow? So what kind of opportunities the organization provides in terms of continuous learning, continuous evolution, not only professionally, but as a human being as well. That is also, this is the next stage of evolution of engagement as a concept I see. And the organizations, if they have to attract unfair share of talent to them to pursue their objectives, then they will have to bring up these kind of programs and interventions and sustained kind of initiatives in their organization. As far as the future of engagement is concerned, I think very exciting time. In next 10 years or so, most of the engagement will move to digital platforms, and there will be very, very innovative, powered by AI, powered by other digital technology. We will have those kind of things available. And in that era, I think physical events and relationships will be super premium. These are the two things. So today, when we organize physical events for engagement, they are common, and hence digital is very attractive. When digital will become common, then maybe physical event in different form than what we are doing today, that will be a super premium. Since the workplaces will get more and more professional and less personal because of the complexities of life, because of the developments and advent of technology, more advanced technology, etc. So very new form of how do we craft relationships among the employees? How do we enable them to identify themselves and anchor themselves with the organization and its purpose? Those are the trends which we need to catch up, and with the aid of technology. Fortunately, now we have extremely advanced technology that will help us collect more data continuously. So more data collection, that will give us more insight, that will help us in creating more propositions and implementing those things. These are some of the powerful trends that are in the making. Already we are seeing many of them in quite advanced state, but much more is to be explored in future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jan, for sharing your thoughts on this. Banda, I would like to come to you. How do you see that in hybrid working model, mostly because you belongs to the media industry, wellness, and kind of service industry? So what is your take on this, that what are the challenges in this hybrid working model if we talk about the employee engagement?
So I think honestly a lot of it was covered here, but I just want to add that I think what in our industry, media and advertising industry, tends to be a very touch and feel kind of an industry, right? Because a lot of the work that we do involves building strong relationships with clients, working together on creative briefs, working together on implementing marketing strategies, which really kind of works well when people are actually coming together and engaging with each other. Clearly, the pandemic made us aware that while it is definitely possible to make things work in a remote environment, For example, we were making pitches to clients on Zoom, which was something that we had not imagined. Literally every team was working from home, and it was at some point, once we overcame the initial challenges, I think everything got back to normal, and everybody felt like, oh, this is going to be the new normal. I think that because of the nature of the industry that media and advertising, we do feel that, for example, just the kind of engagement and interaction that we need to have with our clients, it's very important for us to be like in a slightly more physical environment. We need to have face-to-face meeting with clients. We need to be able to bring people together in an environment where they can collaborate and work and things like that. So we realized that while it was a good one-off, like hopefully a temporary arrangement, we in our industry, we do feel that we want to go back and as much as possible work in an environment which is more it's more of a hybrid environment. Because what we found is that clearly, like for example, I remember we had onboarded so many employees during the pandemic, who are digitally. Can I tell you that almost half of them are not with us? Just the fact that, you need to engage with, you're not really in a position to have face-to-face interaction with your employees. There is no real bond or connection that people are making with the organization. A lot of that you're saying is lost in translation. We realize that, this is perhaps not a sustainable arrangement for us. What we will need is something which is a bit of a combination, and which is what your hybrid work model is. So work from home, for example, is something that we eventually, now we've gone back to a stage where we are saying we are going back to offices full time. So we've been literally back to offices with some amount of flexibility. Now I think the realization is that definitely work is possible in a remote environment, but just the whole feel, how for you to be able to really create any sort of a connection or bond with the employees, that whole coming together in a physical setup is equally important. So that's where I'm coming from.
Thank you so much, Vandana. Pragati, as a HR tech industry, would like to add something?
Yeah, definitely. So I think, moreover, what we need to focus here in this era of digitalization and hybrid model phase. So here we need to analyze people onto that, like how they are being invested in that particular business success also, and individually in that particular organization. So here we need to check out like what's their ratio, because there are 2 to 3 types of people. Are like they are most of the engaged people who do contribute in the organization. Some might be disengaged, to whom we need to convert them into engaged employees. So here the ratio will convert into more and more into the engaged platform once only we get to know like what is the data, how many surveys we have conducted, as though Dr. Jayant and Vandana has already put on these points, that yes, we need to work in collaboratively and look into more deeper side of it, because I think that is a crucial thing of this art, to engage more and more employees here. Yeah.
Thank you, Pragati. Vandana, if we talk about the employee engagement and see what are the important elements, so leadership comes out as a very important element for the employee engagement. So culture of the organization, that is also the reflection of leadership. So how do you see that, what the leadership skills that should be there? The managers must be trained for this, so that
Yeah.
they can engage their team members, the employees.
Yeah.
So what do you think on this?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is, honestly, Ramesh, I think from a leadership point of view, there are some things that never go out of fashion. I think some things that you did earlier are probably most of the things you will probably have to continue to do. And I'm talking about things like being able to, build trust among your, like, for example, be in a position where, the kind of relationship that you have with your team members, building trust with them, making sure that you're consistent, you have their back, you are the kind of person that they want to come back to. They have a lot of faith in you. But considering the whole hybrid environment, and the fact that you may today be working in a hybrid situation, I think there are some things, some of the rules of the game are changing. So, for example, like earlier, for example, maybe what as a manager, as a leader, what you can do is you will actually have no choice but to empower them a lot more, right? Because today they are not really physically there with you for you to monitor what they're doing. How can you really learn to empower them and let go? I think a lot of managers struggle to let go of this whole control, having to micromanage, having to, literally, have to learn, trust somebody to take ownership. So that's something that I think new leaders or any leader will have to learn. I think earlier there used to be, like, managers have a tendency to create a lot of unnecessary tension, like create stress about, with unnecessary rules and rigid ways of working. And I'm thinking that perhaps will be very difficult to sustain in a hybrid environment where, for example, right now, as a growing organization, we are running short of space, and a lot, like we've done like a rostering in the organization where 50% is working from home, 50 in office. So that there are some days people are not coming to office. So how are you going to be able to manage this rigid way of working? So maybe have a little bit more of flexibility in terms of, how many hours, give them the space to work at their own time, perhaps, not have unnecessary rules that are holding them back. So I think a little bit of that rigidity managers will have to let go. Also, I think managers need to learn to share their success. And this is a rule, this is an old age rule. This is not something new. I think managers really need to give credit to the team for everything that they're doing. And I think there is a tendency to sometimes not realize that you may not be doing it. And at times like these, when you're not really in an environment, in a situation where you're face-to-face able to give credit to somebody, I think that is something that managers need to do, which is giving credit. Also, maybe putting them in a position of influence, because I think today a lot of kids, the new generation, they want to be recognized, they want to take credit for their work, and they're extremely, like in charge of what they're doing. So as a leader, I think let them own their work, let them own and take responsibility for the decisions, and that's the way they like to work. And a lot of managers really a lot of us have to unlearn and learn as far as that is concerned. And I think the new generation, I think the learning for the newer generation or going forward is not necessarily going to happen in classrooms. It's not going to happen through courses. It's not going to happen through workshops. A lot of it is going to happen for them while learning, because a lot of them are very smart kids. So you need to be, as a manager, be in a position to detect capabilities in people, learn them to identify their strengths and give them wings, and allow them to kind of grow. So I think for me, these 6 things, being able to develop trust, and which is very important because, it's a mutual thing. Give them credit for their work, let them own their work and decisions, empower them, look for and identify strengths, and do away with some of the unnecessary rigid rules of working, because that's clearly not going to work with the new generation.
Thank you, Anna. As Anna, you talked about the flexibility, you talked about let empower your employees, let them grow, help them to grow, recognize them, appreciate their efforts, their contribution to achieving the goals of the organization. Dr. Jayant, would you like to add something into this?
Yeah, I think the fundamental work, one of the most impactful framework that I am very inspired with is Daniel Pink. He has done a lot of modern day engagement related things, and I think he has really simplified. Let me put across for evaluation of the audience. There are 3 things: autonomy, purpose, and mastery. If as an organization, we can create autonomy for individual related to his or her work, I think that will drive engagement. Thematically, I'm saying the specific kind of measures can be discussed, or that depending on the context, but thematically, autonomy is very, very important. That will remain important. Whether it is physical world or digital world or hybrid world, autonomy will remain important. Everyone wants to be Lord Master of his or her own life. Second is purpose. I already elaborated on that in my previous section. And third is mastery. I do not want at the workplace to be seen as a kind of person who doesn't know his or her work. I think that's very important. So whatever be the reason, if an individual has joined an organization and he is part of or she is part of the organization, then what kind of truly impactful measures that the organization takes to move that level of mastery or the level of what we call as the specialist knowledge, skills, attitude, combination of all of that, so that the person is in full control of the work that the person is doing. I think these three things are extremely important, and a lot of our work and a lot of our things in any kind of format of the work will remain centered around these three things.
Thank you, Dr. Jain. Pragati, as if we talk about the inputs from the panelists, so we need to upgrade our employees. We need to reskill them, upskill them.
Yeah.
So in last 2-3 years, if we see digitalization has been already their industry, but since last 2-3 years, if you see it has speed up and it has accelerated the pace. So how do you see that how the HR tech and digital tools can help to engage the employees?
Definitely, like I would say a crucial role the employee engagement tool is playing, because it's mostly of the employees are working from home. Some are like far away from the space. So I think through tool only we are engaging with them. So we need to build a culture. Like I want to add one more point. What Miss Vandana was telling, to like unlearn and in meanwhile unlearning to learn something. We need to put on an feedback. It's like manager should give the feedback like onto regular check-ins. It should not be that something gonna happen then only he is giving a feedback to their employees and teammates. So that will give a negative fear, like I would say aura, that they are not doing anything good. It's only the negative and bad impacting that particular organization. So I think that I need to add in that particular before conversation going ahead onto this topic. Then onto the digital tool, like we are having so much coming onto the tools in the market. It could be surveys, it could be chatbots, where we are moreover coming onto the engagement part. To each direct engagement could be there. We could conduct polls also, we could conduct surveys also. So we need to enrich our, like I would say, the management also should come up with such a solution so that every employee will feel comfortable to share their opinions, their suggestion. They should feel like they are being heard. So I think onto the management, just like peer assessment, these things should gain their, I would say, area into the particular tool for the engagement.
Thank you, Pragati.
Yeah.
Vanda would like to add something into this?
Yeah, no, I think that I think tools, all sorts of digital tools have been around for quite some time. But I think the way we leveraged them during the pandemic was probably was the game changer, you know.
Right.
AI-driven tools, chatbots, I think there were so many that there are so many that are there in the market. And why only engagement tools? I mean, today, there were a lot of R&R platforms, performance management happens online, giving feedback happens online. You have a lot of these wellness apps. The best part I think about the digital tools is, one, because your newer generation is extremely comfortable using technology. And honestly, that's the mode that they prefer to engage with. Because, like I have nephews and I deal with kids who are like, in the 20s and all that. Honestly, that's their most comfort zone, So in that sense that, that it's not going to be very difficult to to engage the new generation with these kind of tools, plus its ability to reach a larger audience. Today, if you're doing a physical session, I'm just giving you an example. Let's say if I want to do a wellness workshop, or I'm doing any kind of workshop in a room, I will maximum have about 20 people. If I'm doing a workshop virtually, I can have as many people as I want, right? If I'm doing like a virtual yoga session, there'll be like hundreds of people who can log in from their respective spaces, and so just the kind of reach that technology can give you itself is like in my opinion, it speaks so much about, and in a remote environment, it's like perfect. And tools that are used, like for example, surveys anyway happen virtually, because obviously you can't sit and now physically take surveys, be it R&R platforms, performance management, wellness. I think this is great, because I think earlier, whatever resistance we might have had to use technology to engage with people, because in our minds we believe that we need to be engaging with people personally, that has gone out of the window. Now we can justify, say that it worked for us for 2 years. Now what else can go wrong? It can only get better. So I think it has its super advantages.
Thank you, Vandana. Dr. Jain, industry to industry, it may vary. The use of digital tools to engage the employees might be in IT industry or service industry. There's a more scope for this. How do you see in manufacturing setup? Since I think most of the work is still physical there.
So wherever the physical work is there, there you have to essentially what we did. For example, we belong to logistics, and we needed to run our machine because the logistic and supply chain was very crucial for survival of the whole nation and the community. And for that, our people had to work during entire pandemic. We didn't stop even for a day. Then the aspects related to health and wellness. What kind of measures that you initiate proactively without any trigger, well thought through, planned in advance, so that you have highest level of possible security, health related security, and list of kind of any disruption in terms of life of people. So our experiment and our experience during that period in manufacturing, wherever physicalization was essential, that voluntarily people came out, not only our own employees, but because of the kind of relationship which was developed over the years with the community. Even the community in and around our facilities supported a lot. I think these are some of the things which cannot be done when you are at the crossroad. You have to do these kind of things well in advance, and only when these kind of disruptions come, or when you have to maximize the potential of the people. Both ways it works. So these kind of things help if we do these things continuously over a period of time, thinking through the levers well, and without immediate short-term kind of a ROI perspective. If we do it only with very immediate short-term ROI related actions, then our returns will also be very, very limited. So to get high returns over a long period of time, we need to do the right things. In manufacturing, there are roles which we identified, much to the contrary belief that manufacturing it is difficult. We identified a number of roles which were possible to be moved to work from home model. And that worked two ways. One, at least those employees were away from the physical workplace, and it also decongested our workspaces. So we were able to really accommodate less people by virtue of that. And later on, when all this is gone, now we have moved to permanent arrangement, that certain roles we have identified which will always remain work from anywhere model. And that has really helped us in accessing talent across any location in the country. So today we can hire from Guwahati, Bangalore, Chennai, even remote places, irrespective of the physical restrictions of location. So I think there is a lot of scope. This has created a lot of opportunity to do creative things and innovative things. And that is not going to stop because now we have tested it. So we are going to really push it hard, push the boundaries, and it will create value for people. It will create value for the organization. That is the way we look at it.
Thank you, Dr. Jan. Prakriti, we have two HR professionals in this panel, and they are involved directly into framing the policies for employee engagement. But as a non-HR professional, as a HR tech industry, I would like to know what you are expecting. That what should be the in a policy if we are framing policy for the long-term employee engagement. So, what is your take on this? Not as a HR professional, as a general employee.
Okay, I think of like it should be flexible enough, because when you are listening to a lot of people and like they are having different kind of feedbacks, okay, according to that you need to change, you need to improvise that policy. So being an I would say I'm not into the HR tech industry, and being a layman, so I will only ensure that if I'm uh, entering into an organization, I will say like it should be interactive session manage, like I can speak of my voice to the management, I could be heard. Then the policies, like it should be flexible, whether like moreover like many things are changing in this COVID and post COVID era. So I think of like that is the only thing I would say, like uh, to onto the management part or to changing that HR tech part over here.
Right, Prakriti. Um,
So
Actually, as we see all the BJP leaders when they talk about, they cannot continue without putting the name of Mr. Narendra Modi. So similarly, when we HR professional starts any webinar, anything, without pandemic, we cannot continue. So pandemic has become a word that always be put maybe after one or two sentences. So, so Vandana, now I would like to ask you that what are the long-term strategies for improving the employee engagement in your view as a HR professional?
See, I honestly, when I was preparing for this talk, I mean, for this discussion, I have list of 17 strategies, but I'm going to list my top 5. Okay. I think, and some of them are time tested. You know, honestly, it doesn't change. I mean, these are very consistent. How you use them, how you apply that strategy, how you implement it is perhaps may change in the advent of the new normal, or how you leverage technology to make it happen. But in my opinion, there are 5 things that I would focus on from to improve employee engagement. I think communication is very key, and that's something that we learned during the pandemic, because we realized that. And I can't tell you how much communication we did during the pandemic. It was just, and we realized that it really worked for us. And any HR professional will tell you that probably during the pandemic, they did some of the best work in terms of, because it was very challenging. And with over communication, we actually made sure that we were in touch with our employees on a regular basis. We were checking on them. We were doing a lot more engagement stuff. So I think that, and that probably is never ever going to go out of fashion, especially if organizations are moving into a hybrid environment. Communication and ensuring that everybody is always aligned creates a sense of open communication and a sense of, understanding of what's going on. I think that probably will be my topmost. Second is, about building trust. And that's something that I spoke about earlier also. I think how as an organization we are, how honest is our communication, how we treat people fairly. Then if they feel like, there is enough being done for them, there is a lot of trust that kind of comes in between the employee and that's something that an organization should never ever stop working on. Third is, I think, very important is providing employees with regular feedback. And I think that's something more not so much as at the top level, but more to be managed by managers and immediate managers who we need to put a framework in place where employees are getting regular feedback, because often a lot of this stuff can be lost in translation. Second, I think building an extremely solid onboarding process. A lot of employees today are coming in virtually. A lot of them are coming in with with not necessarily feeling any communication or a connection with the organization. Your onboarding process is going to play a very, very crucial role in terms of how they kind of connect with the organization. And I think that's very important. How you make it, it could be virtual, it could be a combination, it could be a blend. But I think that's very important. And it could be a 0 to 90 day kind of an onboarding plan, which is very important. That initial 90 days of the employee is important. And finally, I would say, make well-being, employee well-being a priority. Because during the pandemic, a lot of stuff was spoken about stress, burnout. A lot of employees went through difficult period. And I think a lot of it is trickling, a lot of impact of a lot of that we actually see. And it has made us realize that, to some extent, employees, organizations are going to have to own up the well-being agenda on behalf of the employees if they really want things to be, to work. So I think that, and anything you can do, right, from providing them, a good working environment, healthy food, EAP programs, yoga, or whatever it is, the entire whole well-being. I think that's something that organizations are going to have to invest. So I would say these are my top 5: trust, building trust, communication, over-communicate if required, giving them regular feedback, making well-being a priority, and also having a solid onboarding process. These are my five strategies.
Thank you, Vandana. Dr. Jayant, first, as I asked to Pragati that what is her feedback on this, so she said employees must be heard. So what would be your take if we talk about the long-term strategies? So how we can ensure that all the employees are being heard and they must be responded well. So that is also very important. So what is your inputs on this?
I'll try to simplify, honestly speaking. There cannot be one answer to this question. It's very, very difficult because it's very contextual. And there are so many variables in this whole equation that you have to really craft out the strategy very, very customized. If we try to do one standard strategy, which will be universal across all the organization, that may not give us full result. Let me put it this way. So I'll try to simplify. I'll say that the purpose of the organization, the reason for which it exists, that should be kept central. And the organization should treat its people as the asset which will help it achieve that. And then all other things will flow from there. If we go into one specific aspect, for example, all the things that Vanna said, absolutely valid. No debate around that. But only those things will give us result, may not be, because strategically she is right that all these things need to be done at program level, program conceptualization, program implementation level. But I think also it is an individual issue. And the drivers of engagement for different people is different. That is why we have multiple formats, multiple frameworks of engagement. It's not one framework which is there, which is copied for everyone. These frameworks differ in the, for example, if we look at GPTW framework, it leans towards more of creating a trusting workplace. Whereas if we look at the Gallup framework, it talks more of the dyadic relationship between the manager and the individual. So in that Gallup, they consider as manager as the central point, vehicle through which all the engagement flows. Whereas Great Places to Work says that you need to have a trusting environment. Both are equally good. I mean, even you need trust as a prevailing environment, and you need a good manager, because whatever great policies, strategies that you craft out, if they are not experienced well by the individual, they get lost. So then you have to build the capability of the managers. They should buy into the philosophy of the organization. that we need to treat people with dignity, respect. When they struggle, they need help, that help should be made available. Of course, they need to be heard. No doubt about it. No one will like to be at a workplace where your people are not heard, or your voice is not heard. I will not like to be, no one will like to be, no self-esteem employee will like to be part of that. But one last point that I want to add is that our society is changing, and society is changing big time. Organizations, if we continue to be in love with our own creations of past, will become archaic. We need to really understand the trends. We need to understand the waves which are blowing in the society and how it is changing the mindset and thinking of the members of the society. Because 8 hours they come to work at a workplace, 16 hours they are outside at the workplace. So they get influenced by whatever is happening in the external society. The impact of information, because they have access to information across the globe. And because of these two regions, the workforce texture is changing almost at a very, very rapid stage. And our response or our strategies need to be equally agile in that sense. So one of the things that I want to call out here is more and more democratization of society. This society is very different than what it was in 1947, 1970, 1990, 2000, 2010. It's very, very equalizing kind of society. Even if for wealth it is not equal, but at social status level it is getting more and more equal. Everyone feels that I am owner of my life and I will do what I want to do with it. Organizations need to bring some of these things as a prominent kind of a variable in the equation of building engagement, building productivity, building retention strategies. All the key variables, we need to keep these aspects in mind, that in a changing society, how do you assimilate those kind of powerful trends into your organizational ways of work?
Thank you, Dr. Jan. Vanda, if you see in the last 2-3 years, since most of the things are we are working remotely, hybrid working model, working from home. So what the missing factor is there, what we have also talked about, it is the collaboration. So people are not easily able to collaborate with their team members, with their bosses like this. But you have to connect with them. That is important. So as a HR professional, if we see that how we can ensure the contactless employee engagement in this remote working era.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think initially a lot of us struggled, especially in the first 6 months, we just didn't know what to do. But honestly, eventually we figured it out. And I think technology definitely made a lot of difference. So, I think one of the things that I think all of the organizations did was staying connected through technology, be it Zoom, be it Teams, be it WhatsApp, intranet, your internal Facebook pages, so obviously emailers, and obviously technology, I think, was leveraged beautifully. I think that, I remember that we also consciously, like normally we have an annual employee engagement survey, but during the pandemic, we also ran multiple smaller surveys because we realized that we wanted to stay in touch. So for example, we did a quick 10 survey just to ask them how they're doing. We did another question just to check, because a lot of people were talking about stress and burnout. So maybe, we also did a couple of pulse checks through the year to kind of engage, and that was a good way, source for us to get information. There was a lot of, like I said, communication. We were doing town halls virtually, and not only at a group level, we were also doing town halls at respective business unit levels to let them know what all is going on in the organization. And that's something that we can, we obviously continue to do. I think we also, and like I said, we had upped our employee engagement game. So we also looked at how do we engage our people, how do you recognize their contribution? We created a platform, which is called Havas Positive Feedback. So for example, what we would have normally done through a physical R&R, we started to now do a virtual one where we were, encouraging everybody to give feedback to people virtually, recognize somebody, thank somebody. So, even to that level, we were kind of going there. And of course, we were engaging with our people through social interactions. And when I social, I mean social media pages. So our official pages of Facebook, LinkedIn, Insta, Twitter, there was a lot of engagement and involvement that was happening. And and of course, we were ensuring that whoever, like, for example, during the pandemic, how do you, especially, on a monthly basis, we were ensuring that we are calling up everybody to ask how they are doing. Is everything okay? We were obviously giving them a lot more flexibility, giving them like a mix of both remote and in-house work options. So I think there was like a plethora of things that we did to engage with employees in a contactless manner. And and I think that was, in a way, by doing all of that, which we would have otherwise perhaps not done as much. We went out of our day and did out of our way and did so much more. It really gave employees a sense that we care. And honestly, we saw that in our employee engagement scores. Like our annual survey scores were better in 2020, like 10 points better. And it just, we realized that because we were making those efforts, it really made a lot of difference to how our employees were perceiving us as an organization and a place to work.
Thank you, Vanda. One interesting question is from one of the participant, Vivek. He's asking about, as the voice of the employees' voice that should be heard, then what about the family members? So is the feedback from the family members that should be considered, and
that's a good question.
What is your take on this? Yeah.
No, I think I have to say that there is it's definitely an element that we could not ignore, especially during the pandemic. Because we know a lot of people were suffering, a lot of people had lost a lot of people. People lost their jobs, in some places, salary cuts, so I know that, we all know.
Families involved.
Yeah, and we know that their families are involved. I remember when we actually did the vaccination drive, it was not limited to only employees, right? We were making it available to employees' families also, and our global teams really supported us over there. And I think a lot of that was considered during the pandemic. Suddenly we now think about things like, okay, this person actually does not have the space to work from home. Then we opened up our offices just to kind of give employees the space in case you don't have space at home, come. Because, sometimes especially in cities like Bombay and all, people have very small houses, and we realize that it can get extremely uncomfortable in the house. So there were a lot of things that we started to think about during the pandemic. And I'm hoping that some of that we will continue to do and be mindful of a lot of that. But I agree with whoever has written this. I think we can no longer, organizations are no longer thinking only from an employee point of view. We realize that we have a lot more responsibility, and we also have a lot more influence in that sense, because the employees are spending like 14, 15 hours in office, how that affects their family life, how, we can make it better for them, how can we make it really easier for them. I think these are things that organizations are definitely listening to, for sure.
Thank you, Anna. Dr. Jayant, how do you ensure that family might be some of the organizations, they call their family members maybe on a specific occasion, kind of something, for the feedback, for the involvement, and for the better employee engagement. So how do you ensure that the families must be involved and the feedback must be heard?
So including the family in our framework certainly helps, because then it's more holistic, no doubt about that. If you recall, around 50, 60, 70 years back, when these industrial organizations started coming up, the steel plants, power plants, etc., because of the remote location, we used to have large colony where the whole employees and the families used to live like a community. And it had both the sides of the coin. It had its strong, very, very strong positive impact on the employee and the families, and it also had certain undesirable things. And then when the urbanization happened, then people started living in these kind of metros, largely the white collar workforce. And today there is hardly any connect. In fact, we struggle to organize any employee event in large cities. Everywhere else it will happen. Only in corporate office there will be a problem because of the disparate location where employees are there. So I think it's very helpful. We should do as much as possible. Having said that, there is equally a large set of people who want to keep it separate. That means they do not want to mix work and their private life or social life. And we should respect their preference as well. So why in our jest to include everyone and everyone's family in these kind of things, we need to be mindful that they may not be very vocal, they may not be saying, but they should not be feeling very constrained when we make something extremely mandatory or create such kind of social organizational pressure that everyone has to participate. That kind of space and personal preferences should be respected. But overall, looking at the family, not only from what Vanda said in terms of health and wellness perspective, that goes without saying, yes, of course, not only during pandemic, but always. For example, having those kind of online yoga sessions and wellness kind of tools and making available psychological advice and all those things which all of us are doing now. Going beyond that also, including people, for example, career counseling. When an employee works for so long in office and factories and all those places, one of the things that get missed out is the development of the children. And everyone regrets if that part is not addressed well. So what kind of measures that the organizations can take, especially in those kind of remote locations where large number of employees are there and their children are studying in those places. So apart from having school, etc., career counseling and those kind of measures also goes extremely well. So all these things I think are a creative application of mind, looking at the context, looking at the need, looking at the stage of the organization. In a new age organization, it will play out very differently than in a legacy organization. And hence we need to apply our mind and come out with a proposition which is addressing the need of the workforce.
Dr. Jayant, yes, we are talking about the leadership, we are talking about the digital skilling, reward, recognition, professional growth, everything. But ultimately, ROI matters. So, how you ensure, how do you measure the employee engagement in a right way? How you check the ROI?
So, measuring employee engagement itself is a measure for so many things. When we say that how effective the organizational leaders are, how effective the managers are, how effective the HR systems are, we look at the engagement score as the surrogate measure. Now your question is one level down or one level up rather, that how do you measure the employee engagement effectiveness? For that, I think we need to lift it to a different level. And the purpose of having workforce in the organization is to create value for the society. So if the workforce collectively is able to create more wealth as compared to competition or the known models, business models that the competition is having, by way of their creativity, innovation, invention, collaboration, etc., then I will consider that engagement is truly meaningful. Otherwise, it's a very transactional measure, and all of us know that. We don't need to even mention that how it impacts. But there are research studies which says that engaged organizations create more ROI, and that is in excess of 22%, 25%, 30% than the peer set, the competition. So the true case of an engaged organization is when the workforce, by way of its strive, going beyond the contractual obligation, creates more value than it is supposed to be. That is first thing. Second thing that comes to my mind is that if year on year, my net people asset value is growing, the way we do in balance sheet, our, let's say, physical asset value, capital assets, and other assets we put a value to that, which is more tangible, and there is an MRP. So you can calculate that by applying depreciation formula. In case of human beings, it's a bit difficult, but still there are ways and means through which we can decide that organizations, this is the net people asset value, which is more cerebral, more intellectual, more having higher potential of creating wealth. If year on year, our net people asset value is growing, then engagement is working. Otherwise, we can create happiness, we can create fun and frolic, we can create events, we can organize DJs for all that matters. But if these two things are not being addressed, then to my mind, there is a job to do for all of us. And we need to really then think harder and come out with better propositions as to how do we, because our people have not joined our organization to get depreciated, like machines and assets and buildings and cars and other things. They are lively human beings. Their value must grow with every passing day. And the organizations owe that to the individuals, to the people. When they join, they are absolutely top-notch. That is why they are hired. They meet the requirement. If they get redundant, if they get obsolete over a period of time, and if they are not, let's say, having the same value at least, which they were 3 years or 5 years back when they joined the organization, then there is something broken and we need to fix that.
Thank you, Dr. Jan. Vandana, I would like to add a little more into this. ROI, yes, of course. Sometimes what you see, team members, there are certain members are there. You continuously observe them, and you feel sometimes that this person is not engaged. Might be you can also assume that after 1 month, 2 months, he may leave the organization. So, what are the signs? How you assess how you observe, so that you can sense it that this person is not engaged, and what you can do here to
No,
how
I
you
agree.
can connect with him, how you can discuss with him. That
Yeah.
that is my question here.
I think you, when somebody is not engaged, you immediately see that in the person's body language. If you see that in the quality of the work, you will see that a lot more mistakes are happening. You will see the employee productivity, literally drop. One of the things that I also, my personal, like for example, recently I had a girl who left from in my team, and I like 6 months ago, I told her manager, I said, this girl is not really engaged. And perhaps at a, maybe slightly from a distance, I'm able to see a lot more than maybe her immediate manager on a day-to-day basis. But I think there's a lot that you can, like, for example, do you see absenteeism, like you see there's a lot of leaves, or, a lot of requests to work from home. You like, for example, we are very active on social media. We do a lot of posts on LinkedIn and all that, and suddenly you see that this person stops liking or resharing, and because we are all supposed to do that. I think these are very straightforward indicators that something is not right. And I think that if you have sensed it, and if you don't do something about it, then it's an opportunity lost. I think if the whole idea is that if you are so intuitive and you're in a position to do something, I mean, a manager should immediately have a conversation and kind of see what can be done, what, if it can be resolved. And, most of the times I realize that, some of the issues are so small that it could be easily fixed. I think that we need to managers really need to make that effort. A lot of them just, let it pass, think ho jayega, theek ho jayega, kya problem hai, it's like that.
Thank you, Vandana. We have only 2-3 minutes left now. One question is also from the participants, that he's talking about the taking out employees out of the company premises. So is it, as per policy, is it good, or what are the normal practices for this?
What does that mean when out of the office premises, as in forcibly?
Not forcibly, of course, might be as a policy. For the employee engagement, a kind of tool you can plan, might be he's trying to say this.
I'm not clear.
No. Question is that many organizations take employees and their families out for engagement events.
Okay.
What is the kind of policies and practices which are prevailing? I think that depends upon the feasibility, because today large scale organizations have multiple kind of locations across. So these things are done at different locations, because physically you can't create 1 lakh employee event in one shot, and you can't fly 1 lakh people at one location. So they are into smaller teams. But to the extent possible, I think these things also have their value. In whatever digital etc. will come, they have very good value. But these things also have their own set of values. Taking people out for a movie, or taking people out for, and people really enjoy. Also, sorry.
Yeah.
In today's world, we may feel that these things have become old, but when you actually do it, people appreciate a lot, because they have not been able to do it because of the time pressure. When you create that avenue, when you take people for those kind of things, they really like it.
No, I think, and you're right. There are, now that I understand the question, thank you for clarifying. I think there are a lot of things organizations are doing, for example, that, in maybe not taking people out, but like, for example, every year we organize family days, and families are invited to come over, and, there's a lot of fun and engagement that we do. We get the members of the family to come and see what is the kind of work that their family members are doing. There are sports days, sports events where, then there is this whole annual function where reward and recognition happens, and those opportunities are there to invite family members. So there are many opportunities, and I think it's a great idea. There are some specific office parties, for example, where, people are sometimes allowed to bring in their family members. So there are opportunities. I don't know if it's possible to do it at any point simply because of the number of people for the entire organization in one go. But I think multiple, in a staggered manner, I think that's definitely possible.
I would like to take some of the concluding comments. We are at the end of session. So, what are the lessons learned, and any suggestions for the participants in terms of the employee experience?
From us or from participants? From us?
Yeah, you can take it.
Okay. Look, I think based on my experience, in this in the HR fraternity or business for so long, I think there are my top 3 things is, my learnings or my suggestions to anybody who wants to do anything in the space of HR, is that, one is people can sense authenticity. So try to be as genuine as possible. Don't fake it. I think people pick it up, and the more genuine you are, the more people are able to appreciate what you're trying to do, and the more connected they will feel with you. And this is, like I said, this is the golden rule. It never goes out of fashion. I think people are also very sensitive to how you are consistently treating everybody, right? So, for example, if they feel that the way you treat some people or some sections of the organization differently, or, they need to feel a sense of fairness. And I think if you're fair and consistent across, these are some things that really make employees feel like, they want to stay in a setup like that. And lastly, I think we need to give people credit, and not treat them like they're kids. I think they're much smarter and evolved than what we think. I think it's very important to keep your communication honest. Often we try to, bullshit sometimes, or maybe sometimes we try to give them, say things more from a effect point of view. And I think people really sense that. So give them more credit. They understand. If you're going to be honest and tell them the truth, they will probably be a lot more. So I think these are my top 3. So, give them more credit, and believe that understand that they are much more smarter and receptive than you think. Make sure that your treatment to everybody across is fair and is consistent.
Right.
And be genuine. I would say those are three things. And if they see that in an HR person or culturally, that is the kind of place people want to really spend their life.
Absolutely. Yeah, Dr. Jain, any concluding comments from your side?
So before that, there is an augmentation of the question that we answered just before this concluding comment of Vanna. I think it is from Vivek Deshpande. He says that what he means is that some organizations take employees out for engagement activities beyond office hours. Is that correct? That is his value question he is asking. That whether it should be done within the office hours, engagement activities, or is it okay if organizations are, for example, after working for 6 days or 5 days, people get 1 day on Sunday to sleep, and then HR organizes a Ludo competition or a carom board competition, and they feel extremely irritated, but there is a mandate that you have to come for this kind of a carom board competition in some place for this is what he's asking. I think that depends on the policy of the organization. There is no harm in doing it within office hours, because then it is anything which comes within office hours is having more value. If we organize those kind of things outside, but then organization also has to think of its productivity norms and what kind of policies, discipline, etc. it is having. So either way, it is very difficult to say whether it is right or not. I think that again depends upon the individual organization's policy.
Yeah, no, I think it's a very industry specific
Thank
thing.
you,
Like
Dr.
in
Jain.
our industry, advertising industry, it's a given. Everybody goes out after work. So, it's different across industries.
Prati, would like to add something as a concluding comments?
Yeah, sure. So here I would like to add that we should also inbuild for the core values that comes from the top to bottom. So that the I would say the lower level of I would say employees can have that core value inbuilt in their character, and they could represent it through their works, through their behavior. So every time the management should come up with such kind of words, I would say phrases in meetings. So it would be directly, I would say, impacting the lower level of employees. So that is a crucial add-on point I want to hear.
Thank you so much, all the panelists, Dr. Jant, Vandana. What we have discussed today are most part of the focus areas for the employee engagement that should be the part of a long-term employee engagement strategy. That we have talked about the culture, the contribution of the employees that must be appreciated, rewards that should be there, the proper the policy should be there, and upskilling and digital literacy, that is very important. That should be most of the people might be in some of the companies, they are not comfortable working on a digital environment, so make them comfortable. That is also very important. Growth, professional growth of each and every employee is equally important, so that must be the part of the policy. So I think we have taken all the questions from the participants, and we have concluded well. So thank you so much, all the panelists and all the participants, for joining the webinar.
Thank you, Ramesh, for inviting us. Thank you, Dr. Jain, Pragati.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you all. Okay. Good day.